What's cracking, YouTube? It's your boy Matty B. Welcome back to the channel and thank y'all for tuning in. As always, really appreciate each and every one of you. For today's video, we're going to do a preview for round 12 of AMA Supercross that's going down this weekend in St. Louis. And not only has the 450 championship tightened up big time in the last week, but we also have our second East-West Showdown, almost back-to-back nationals. I mean, we just had one 2 weeks ago, but those things are always bangers, and I'm stoked we're getting another one so soon. But for today's video, we're going to start with talking about Eli Tomac and what may or may not be going on with him and his lackluster rides as of late. Is he hurt? Man, I hope not. But then we'll get into some movement at the AMA with Ezra Lusk leaving the chat and a total legend, Jeremy Albrecht, taking a step up. Then we'll do a quick rundown of some of the main storylines heading into the East-West Showdown this weekend. We got to talk about the save of the century and give some love to my guy Devin Simson, who's having a career year on the Club MX Yamaha. And then, as always, we'll finish it up with our track preview, track breakdown, our MX Simulator virtual POV lap, and my predictions for what I think is going to go down this weekend in St. Louis. But before we get into all that stuff, as we always do, got to give a huge thank you and a shout out to my channel sponsors. They're the ones who make all my trips possible and make it to where I can go to all the places I go to bring you guys all the content that I do. So please do me a favor and go check them out. Huge thank you to ASV Inventions, home of the Unbreakable Lever, Serious Studio, who can take care of all your merch needs, and the DesignLabCo.com. They got some great designs in their lab at their co, and if you need graphics, look no further than there. I have links and discount codes in my video description, and if you guys buy from them, a small portion of the sale goes to me to help keep us going. So if you're supporting them, you are literally supporting me. And also, I'm doing the TV announcing for the GT Arena Cross Series on Fox Sports 1 and Fox Sports 2 with Daniel Blair. Here's the airing schedule. Would really appreciate it if you guys would tune in. Not only will entertainment be guaranteed in your contract, but it'll also help me keep my job. But thank you guys again for watching. Hope you enjoy today's video. Alright, first topic for today. The topic that everybody's been talking about is Eli Tomac and what the hell has been going on with ET. Where's Beast Mode? He definitely wasn't in Detroit, but he for damn sure was around for the first half of the season. Eli came out firing at the first several rounds, and even at the ones he didn't win, he still showed tons of speed and things that made you think he's the guy to beat for the season. But it was pointed out by Daniel Blair that, oddly enough, Tomac hasn't quite been the same guy since he chipped his tooth at the Broken Daytona Trophy Invitational. Did he go to Hunter's dentist on accident or something? Maybe he got dosed up with some real good tranquilizers or something? I don't know, I'm just kidding. You need way more than a tranquilizer to affect Eli Tomac, but with that being said, something is definitely affecting Eli Tomac. Other media members have speculated that maybe there was a practice crash during the week and Eli's been racing through an injury, but there has been absolutely zero confirmation on any of that, and with how secretive the Tomac camp usually is, I bet we never get a confirmation on what's going on, or at least not for a long time, till maybe Eli's retired or till the season's over. But if it's not an injury, what the hell could it be? I feel like he's proven himself on about every surface possible already in Supercross this year, so I'm not really thinking it's just the bike setup on these tracks. He's already done it in race conditions, and they spent the entire offseason testing at like 6 or 9 tracks per week, so bike setup from week to week would not be an issue. So setup seems a little bit less likely than an injury, but one thing about Eli throughout pretty much his whole career is that if he's not comfy and his setup's off, then he will not push it until he crashes. That's probably why he's still around and still healthy after all these years racing as a top dog. So in theory, it really could just be set up because in the past, it hasn't taken too much to see these kinds of rides out of Eli. We've even heard him talk about the fact that if the height of his rear end is off a little bit, then he gets arm pump immediately. And it's not like he got 15th at Detroit, he still got 5th. It just wasn't quite what we were expecting out of Beast Mode, especially when that mode is really needing to be summoned right about now. So in summary, I don't really know what's going on, and I don't think anybody outside of the Tomac camp really has much of a clue either. Birmingham was one thing with the heat race incident with NBA J-Coupe and having to go through the LCQ. It would kind of be plausible to think that he just wanted to survive that night there, but Detroit was just weird. He just didn't seem to have the fire, he slowly went backwards, he couldn't fight off J-Coupe, but then when Webb showed up, he suddenly found another gear and fought him off. And it's not like Eli doesn't know that every point is crucial. It looked like that was just all he had in the tank. Hopper thinks he's favoring one side and has a foot injury, and AC and JB pointed out an instance where Eli clipped his foot on a tough block off the start. So maybe that could be it, but yeah, I already said it. I don't know what's going on. I'm not even going to try to overanalyze it and try to find out his injury. I'll never be able to, but man, I really hope he gets back to being the Eli Tomac that's firing on all cylinders soon, because even after Hunter threw away all those points in Detroit, this thing could still be heading towards being over sooner rather than later if Hunter keeps crushing it and Eli still has puzzling rides. Stay tuned, this weekend is huge. Next up, it's been a very rough season to be the 3 letters that are A, M, and A. And now, after a controversial few weeks, they've lost a very valuable part of the organization in Ezra Lusk. Ezra was helping a lot with bringing the perspective of a past top racer in, and I think he was a pretty solid liaison between the riders and the bigwigs. But after the last several weeks, Ezra's had enough and he's no longer going to be working with the AMA. I've seen a lot of speculation saying that Ezra left because of all the bad decision making that's been going on lately, but newsflash guys, he was part of the committee that made the decisions. There's 3 people that voted on it, and Ezra was one of them. And Ezra has said a few times publicly that he wasn't doing this job for the money, and when it stopped being fun, then he was going to be out, and it appears to have stopped being fun. Comment sections are ruthless nowadays, and reading through them's got to be about as fun as a joyride with Tiger Woods, especially if you're an AMA employee, so maybe Ezra had just had enough negativity in his life and said peace out. Life's too short to live around negativity anyway. I saw that both Ezra and his son raced the Loretta Lynn's area qualifier last weekend on Ezra's first weekend away from the job, and that's awesome. Hopefully we get to see both of the Lusks racing at Loretta's, especially Ezra. I always love seeing when the legends come back to race at the ranch, and I have very early memories of watching Supercross as a kid and seeing Ezra Lusk straight up beat Ricky Carmichael and Chad Reed. He was a bad dude. As for Ezra's replacement, the job's being taken by another legend, and that is Jeremy Albrecht. J-Bone's been around since Nam, he's been a mechanic for some of the sports greats, and he was team manager for a long time at JGR. He seems to be one of the more respected guys in the pits, and I think he's one of the most perfect guys for the job. He doesn't have the actual race experience that Ezra has, but J-Bone has been close enough to it and around it long enough to where I think he's going to be in Titty City when it comes to this job. Just don't read the comment sections, J-Bone. I would say the comments are all from just a bunch of clowns like me anyways, but I'm not even enough of a loser to leave a bunch of hate comments on posts all the time. Sometimes stuff does gotta be said, but life's great. The AMA messes up sometimes. So what? We still get awesome racing every weekend, but I'm saying all this, but I can also really appreciate the passion our fan base has for the sport, and that's why they get so fired up. I mean, hell, I was actually pretty fired up about a few of the calls that have been made. I love the passion in our sport, and hopefully the fans don't have to get too passionate about another AMA decision anytime soon. Good luck, AMA feds. You got this. And how sick is this? For the second time in 3 weeks, we have yet another East-West Showdown National in our contract for St. Louis this weekend. I went very into detail on my preview for the first showdown, and at risk of sounding lazy, I gotta say that I don't really think I need to be all that detailed this time because the first showdown was the preview for this showdown. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm calling it a shootout for the rest of this video too. Cancel me, Karens. I dare ya. But yeah, super dungy pumped, mega stoked for another showdown. A lot of people have called for the 250 class to be a national championship in Supercross and not have coasts anymore. And could you imagine if this is what we had every single weekend? Honestly, it would be sick for the racing, but at the same time, I doubt the teams would hire near as many riders, and I think a move like that would come at the cost of a lot of jobs. There's pluses and minuses to it, but that's not going to happen just yet. This is the second of 3 showdowns this year, and I hate to be boring, but I don't really expect it to be too much different than the first showdown was. The biggest thing I could see changing would be a possible, and I mean possible, Hayden Deegan versus Cole Davies battle for the win. Obviously, Deegan was a man amongst boys and slower men in Birmingham, but the one caveat is that Cole Davies didn't quite look like himself at all in that main event, and if the best version of Cole shows up, then I really do think there would be a chance of him battling Deegan, especially if Hayden keeps it up with the mid-pack starts. But even with both coasts on the gate, Deegan blitzed through the field in Birmingham, and I'll be kind of surprised if he doesn't win, but I'll be really surprised if he doesn't win and someone other than Cole Davies beats him. Those two are just the class of the field right now. Then that next group of Hammaker, Sushi, and Kitchen could be pretty interchangeable, but that's assuming that Kitchen's back is feeling better after Birmingham. He got an MRI after the race, and I haven't heard any news, so maybe that's a good thing. I don't really know, but I think those are your main podium contenders with some honorable mentions to Ryder D and Dax Bennick. We have no triumphs left, but Star Yamaha has so many riders that they probably forgot about half of them by now, and you can never count out the Club MX Yamaha boys barking in formation, taking up 4 spots in a row wherever they are. And speaking of Club MX Yamaha, how about my guy Devin Simonson? Not even just regarding his save of the millennium last weekend when Cody with a T chopped him up the face with a C, but just the whole season in general so far. The dude has been crushing it. In my 250 East preview, I predicted that Devin could be the surprise of the East Coast Series. I have a lot of belief in my guy, I have for a long time, but son of a biscuit, he's actually doing the damn thing. This past weekend, he was 3rd overall in qualifying, just over half a second off of fastest qualifier. Running up front in the heat race, fighting for top 3 spots, and doing the same thing in the main. Good start, running top 3. Got passed by Davies, and Cody with a T went to make it a 2-for-1 special when things went sideways, literally. Talk about turned down for who, what, when, where, why, and how. I have no clue how our guy survived this excursion to tell the tale, but he landed it. Didn't hit anyone head on, looped back in, hit the same corner twice, hit the same line again, and just kept on ripping. If a cop without a clue was standing after that triple, he would have pulled Devin over and breathalyzed him. But Devin was all jacked up from that, had another crash in the whoops, and unfortunately that was it for the night in Detroit. But talk about potential out the ass, son. He's been well inside the top 10 every round. He's always been a good starter. He's showing why Club MX Yamaha signed him, and I really think this is just the beginning for him. He's always been talented, but had super limited resources, and he might even tell you that he could have possibly worked a little bit harder, but now he's buckled down, he looks like an athlete, and he's playing the part. I spent a lot of years at south of the border with Devin. I've seen him go through a lot. He spent a summer riding a 2007 CR85 because that's all they could afford, and he spent another one trackside in 2 casts from 2 broken legs from said CR85. It's been a super tough road and a long road for Devin to make it to this point, so to see everything finally starting to come together for him has me stoked out. I love, and I mean love, seeing the homies succeed. I'm not out there holding it down, so I got no choice but to back my guys out there that are doing it as hard as possible. And now we'll get into our track preview, track breakdown for this weekend for round 12 in St. Louis. And I really hate to not be positive about it, but I'm not really loving the look of this track for this week. I'm seeing a lot of sections that might be single file nationals and only a few sections that are really going to be separators, but what the hell do I know? Hopefully I'm wrong, but we got the start right down in the middle as we do every single weekend. It's literally in the contract at this point, but start straight, not quite full length, but a pretty long start straight into a sweeping left-handed corner, but not a wide sweeping left-hander. It's actually a pretty tight left-hander, but that puts you right into your first rhythm section, and I mean right out of the first corner into that rhythm section, so hopefully we don't see any cross jumping and bar banging right off the start, but I'm thinking the ideal rhythm through there is going to be a double, triple, and then triple again, and both of those triplers are going to be off of a couple of 5-footers, so we're going to see some Guy Cooper airtime through there, but that puts you into your first bull corner, a 180 to the right, and then you're into your longest rhythm section on the track, and there could be a lot of different combos and possibilities through this one. I'm thinking we could see a double in, triple, then triple onto the step on, step off, and then double out. The biggest kahuna option that I know everybody's going to want to see uncorked would be triple out of the corner, then triple again, quad over the step on, step off, or a triple depending on who you ask, and then double out into the corner. Maybe you could even see a triple out of the corner and then double because it's on one of those bananas, and then you triple onto the step on, step off, and then double into the corner. But copy and paste what I always tell you guys. It all depends on how they build it on race day and how the lines form in the corner and all that kind of stuff. But those were honestly kind of the best parts of the track, because out of this rhythm section, then you're into a very one-line section. You got a 90-degree corner to the right, basic supercross triple, and then another 90 to the right. So pretty much everybody's just going to hug to the inside, hit the triple, and then hug the inside again, because out of that second 90, then you get your finish line. The 2 easiest obstacles on the track are right after these 90s, so no reason to go wide or anything like that. But then you got the finish line, land that, a little check single into a bull corner, and then a very short rhythm section. It's looking like either a step on, step off, and then a triple into the corner, or maybe a step over the tabletop, triple, and then single into the corner. But that would be tripling off of a 5-footer, so I'm really feeling like it would be faster to go step on, step off, triple. But that puts you into another 180 bull corner, this time to the right, and then we got our loop section right out of the corners, so it's going to be really hard to get a drive for these things. And yeah, right out of the loop section, then you got a supercross triple, so I'm hopeful that maybe some guys could get a good drive to the loops and then scrub the supercross triple and pass. But the only problem with that is that it's a right-hander before the loops and a right-hander after the loops, so I feel like going protective would not really be very difficult in this section. But again, hopefully I'm wrong, but after the supercross triple, got another 90-degree corner to the right, and then this is where it's really going to get basic, and I'm not really sure if we're going to see much happening through here unless we get some throwbacks to Jordan Smith, Hayden Deegan, Detroit, or whatever race that was, whatever year that was when they were teammates and taking each other out. But you got a single, back across the start straight, a 180 bull corner to the right, back across the start straight, same thing, a 180 bull corner to the left, and then across the start straight one more time for the trifecta. That puts you into one last 90-degree corner to the right, and again, I'm thinking everybody's just going to hug the inside right here, because the next rhythm, it's not like you're going to need a huge seat bounce or anything like that based on what the map is. So again, I'm thinking it could be pretty one line through here, but then this little rhythm section here, I think it's going to be either another step on, step off, and then double, or maybe step over the tabletop and then triple. I feel like that would be the fast line, but again, just going to depend on how it's built. Gosh, I say that way too much, but it's true. But then you're back across the start straight for one final time, a little single into a 180 bull corner to the left, another single on the way out, and then that puts you back into this first rhythm. Maybe, depending on how they build this single out of that final bull corner, you could double out of that corner and into this first rhythm, but it looks like it would be a bit of a stretch, so I'm thinking you'll single out of that corner, and then a little single, triple, and then double into the corner, so that'll be a lot faster of a line than the guys can bust out off the start. But yeah, that's a lap around St. Louis for round 12 and the East-West Showdown. So regardless of what I think about the track, it's Supercross. It's always good, even on a bad night. So I know the racing's going to be good no matter what track they're riding on. They all got to race the same thing. So who cares what I think? Maybe it'll be the best track of the year and I'll be proven super wrong, and I would be stoked if that happened. But now let's check out what it looks like virtually. We got our MX Simulator POV lap from yours truly, NBA Loose Unit. And last but not least, my predictions for the weekend, just going to keep it short and sweet without a choice, but in the 250 East-West Showdown, I'm just picking this to do something different. I feel like it's been Deegan domination. That's all anybody's talked about, so I'm just going to predict a Cole Davies upset. I'm not really even sure that I can say that I think that's going to happen, but just going to predict it, just going to change it up. So I've got Davies for the win. I've got Hayden Deegan for second. The only way I would think that happens is if he gets a bad start, and that's what happened at the last showdown. So we'll see how it turns out. And then I got Seth Hamaker rounding out the box in third. I feel like he's been second fiddle on that East Coast, and I think he's a little bit better than the rest of those guys on the West Coast right now. So I think he rounds out the box in that showdown. And then in the 450 class, I think Hunter Lawrence gets back to his winning ways. Last weekend was an uncharacteristic bad race for him, but he knows the situation. He knows he's got to perform right now, and I think he rips off a win. I think Ken Roxon continues his run of good finishes and gets in the runner-up spot in second. Then for third, I'm going to go with Eli Tomac. We still don't know what's going on with the guy, but I feel like if he doesn't get on the box, then the momentum is definitely not going to be looking good for this championship. So I'm really thinking and hoping that he gets in that third spot or at least somewhere on the box just to keep himself in it. But that's all I got for you guys for today's video. Really appreciate y'all tuning in, and as always, please let me know in the comments what you thought of the video, if you liked it, if you disliked it, if you agree with my takes, if you disagree, if I'm just a cooked unit idiot, if my content sucks, or anything in between. We're here for all that kind of stuff, but yeah, thank you guys again for watching. Really appreciate it, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Free of choice.